Would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Hey, our first order of business tonight is to approve the minutes of the June 3rd, 2025 council meeting. You've got those in front of you. Are there any, or is there a motion to approve? Thank you.
Second.
So it's been moved by Councilwoman McCartney Duty and seconded by Councilwoman Cunningham to approve the minutes of the June 3rd meeting. Is there any discussion?
I don't see anything.
Any public comment? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. New business or old business, there is none. New business. The first order is vote on the alleyway closure application. We don't normally do these. People just kind of let us know. But since Tira Henry was so kind as to fill this whole thing out, I thought it'd be good to just have it on public record that we said, yeah, let's do that. So the alley between the Wagon Wheel and the open lot owned by Bill Beeler. The Wagon Wheel is the sponsor of the events, the Human Foosball and the Cornhole Tournament. And they, last year when they did this, they had people back and forth between the Wagon Wheel and the games. So they have notified Bill Beeler and Janice Goodman. Are there any other questions or anything you guys see on that, or do I have a motion to approve the alleyway closure?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It was moved by Councilman Bellinger and Heather, was that you that seconded it?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks. Is there any discussion on this?
Looks like they did all their diligence.
Yep. Tira was very thorough. Is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on this? Hopefully nobody's raising their hand. All right, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the alleyway closure, approval of the alleyway closure application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. All right, great. Okay, so item number 2, there are some things happening that I wasn't sure we're going to be ready for this meeting, and sure enough, I don't have anything on those things. So I would like us to have a special meeting next Tuesday on June 24th, 2025. So if most of the items are pertaining to law enforcement. So if you guys are
need to have a meeting on July 1st.
I was going to ask Tom that question since we're having the discussion. Tom, if we meet on the 24th, would you have anything we needed to talk about on the 1st? I know you'd have some bills probably like the second week in July.
So normally the first meeting of July, I'll have claims for sure that need to be paid, but I usually pass the wage increase.
Okay.
Salary increase on that first meeting as well.
Okay. And will that be ready by July 1?
Should be.
Okay. So yes, we'll still have a meeting July 1, but it'll probably be a pretty light meeting. So we'd end up having meetings 3 weeks in a row. And the only reason I would want to have a meeting next week is if there's any movement by the county or the sheriff, then it would be something that we could put into place before the end of our fiscal year. Josh and I also found that we need to, whether we contract with the sheriff's department or somebody else, we need to have a police commission board, no matter what. So that is something that Josh has looked into and I've looked into and I'm continuing to look into to see like what that structure needs to be. And it just wasn't going to be ready for this meeting, to put on the agenda for this meeting?
I move we have the special meeting on June 24th.
Okay.
Second.
It was moved by Councilmember Belanger and seconded by Councilmember Cocoli to have the special meeting June 24th. Is there any discussion on this? Any more discussion on this? You guys have any more questions for me?
Not at this time.
Okay. Is there any public comment on that?
No, sir.
All right. I will call the question. Those in favor of the special meeting on June 24th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. All right. Third thing, in your packets, there is an email stream between Wendy Yeager and CPMS, which is the private security company out of Great Falls that provide actual post-certified law enforcement officers as private security. Since I was informed before the notice in the June 5th paper that the sheriff was considering not providing security, I had Wendy reach out and look into what it would take. And what we found is that for $69.50 an hour plus $50 a day per car, we can hire this security company to come do enforcement during the parade. So what I worked it out to is if we have 5 officers and 5 cars for 4 hours, we'd be looking at $1,640. Whereas I believe if my math is correct, for the sheriff department, we'd be looking at $2,080 if they had been willing to provide that. So we would actually, at the current rates, save money by contracting these guys for that parade, and we would then have post-certified security for that. They said as long as our road closure permit is good to go, which when I talked to Charlie Yeager on Thursday, the state had one thing that they needed from her to be able to approve that, and she was getting it to them that day. So as long as we have that permit, they would be okay coming up and doing that. So that's what we're looking at with them. There's I believe the entire email stream is in your packet, so please do look at that. But just the vote on contracting with them for the 4th of July parade is what we're looking at tonight.
I move that we hire the security company to come in for the 4th of July festivities.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. I just want to note it is just for the parade. The Legion is providing their own security for the rodeo and for the street dance. So it has been moved by Councilmember Belanger and seconded by Councilmember Cocoli to hire CMPS for security for the 4th of July parade. Is there any discussion on this? Is there any public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think it would be feasible to pass a pail around the bystanders during the parade? Really? Just to make a point?
I don't know if we could do a donation area or not.
That'd be, Mary, let me look into that.
Okay.
Whether or not it'd be okay for us as a municipality to do that. I don't see why not, but I'm in the mood to dot all my I's and cross all my T's and mind my P's and Q's. So, but I will make a note of that and take a look into it. Is there any other public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the sheriff's department going to do while we have the other security yet?
I have no idea, Billy.
So we're still paying them by the hour, though.
That is later on the agenda.
Okay.
This is more in place so we don't have to worry about whatever's going on with the contract right now to make
Well-
sure we can get through the 4th of July without uninterrupted.
And it is my understanding with what's been in the paper the last 2 weeks that there will be no law enforcement presence from the sheriff unless there is an emergency on the 4th of July. So, anybody else? Call the question. All those in favor of hiring CMPS for parade security on the 4th of July signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. Motion carries. 1 sec, I'm writing down the donation for all right. Next item on our agenda is a vote on resolution number 933, the intent to increase water rates. So with the water projects we've been doing, the amount of the loans we have, they require us to have a certain revenue per month for water rates coming in so that we can satisfy that loan. If you go and look at it, the rates are going to go up. I think it's $14 and some cents for the base rate. And then the usage rate isn't going to go up at all. Actually, it's going to go up $13.12, it looks like, on a 1-inch line, which is what, and Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, most of our personal service lines are the 3/4 and the 1-inch. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep. Do we have any homeowners that are on the 1.5-inch line?
Not to my knowledge. We do, when we are putting in, when people are replacing, they are upgrading to a 1-inch because of the length of them.
Right.
1/4-inch water lines tend to wear out faster because of the length and the amount of that. But I don't think 1.5. That'd be for a business. We got some businesses that got 1.25 and 1.5, but not to my knowledge, we no residents in town, I don't believe.
Okay. And I mean, it does grow quite a bit for the businesses. But again, just the base rate, their usage rate isn't changing. It is staying at $3.72 per 1,000 gallons. And I know when I brought that up at our executive forum in February that we paid, I said $3.75 per 1,000 gallons. I had several other mayors go, "That's it?" So I think we're good on that. But we do need to raise these this amount to be able to say, hey, yeah, we can satisfy our loans, and then we can hopefully put money away after our loans are paid back, so that when things like the water salesmen go down, or we need other fixes, whatever, on the water system, we've got some money in that account. So anyway, all that to say, all we're doing right now is the resolution of intent to increase water rates. This begins, so then we will have a public hearing. The public will have, what, is it 2 meetings? So they'll have till July 1st or until July 15th to comment.
We'll probably start the public hearing on the 1st.
Okay.
So we'll notice it for 2 weeks and then have the 1st, and then we'll probably close it and vote on it on the 2nd meeting of July.
On the 15th. Okay. I couldn't remember what we had talked about for time frame on that. So
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
it's changed because this got pushed out. And I would also like to point out, it wasn't on the first one I sent you on Friday. We did add to the resolution an increase of bulk water charges. sort of the water salesman, from 50 cents per 100 to $1 per 100 gallons. The level double.
Yep. So, do I have a motion on that one?
I move that we approve the resolution with intent to increase water rates.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilperson Cunningham and seconded by Councilperson Belanger to approve resolution number 933. Is there any discussion on this? Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of passing resolution 933, the intent to increase water rates, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. Motion carries. So number 5, what we have here is a vote on paying the sheriff's invoices. So what is out there is, hang on, I gotta switch screens here. So the sheriff's, the outstanding balance for the sheriff is $33,639.25. That is after paying them $10,882.50 last month, which brought us up to the $118,514 and change of the contract that was canceled. What the contract amount for this fiscal year would have been, that was canceled back in May. So, do I have a motion to pay the sheriff's invoices?
Where would the money come from?
It would have to come from the general fund, Tom, is that correct?
Correct.
And what's in the general fund right now?
I did pull up a report recently.
We have it in
Is it
our
in here?
packet.
Thought it was in here.
Yeah, so we are under budget overall right now. I mean, I still have some things to come through for June, but it'll be fairly close, but I think overall we can afford to pay this. Obviously, we're going over the account specifically for the sheriff line, but I think we can absorb this without going over budget.
Okay.
And of course, if we do, because we've underspent in some other line items for the year. But if we do go over, we do have cash reserves that we can use to pay for it. It will just require a budget amendment to go over budget.
Okay.
For the whole fund.
So I just want it known that the budgeted amount has been spent, and if we do pay the sheriff for this, we have spent $216,153 paying the sheriff hourly, which we did not have a contract for. We've not had a contract since the contract was canceled in May. And so the sheriff has been, until recently, providing service and sending us an invoice by the hour with no agreement.
So we need a motion before we can discuss.
Right.
I'll move to pay the sheriff's invoice.
I'll second.
So it has been moved by Councilperson Kokoli and seconded by Councilperson Cunningham to pay the sheriff's invoices. Is there more discussion on this?
Yeah. So I've talked with quite a few people in the city, along with a couple of our representatives off our law enforcement council. Everybody I've talked to does advise us to pay this, and I've got no problem paying it, but I think people should know what that money means as far as where it's coming from. So looking at our budget and stuff, I've got it here in front of me. Over the last 4 years, we have certain line items, stuff that we budgeted for different places that maybe they didn't spend, they got put back in the general fund. So it's things like the library. Over the course of the last 4 years, with their budget, they didn't spend $17,129.82. So that money would basically be going towards this. Our visitor center, $2,931 would be going towards this. The pavilion, we're at $12,139.44 would be going towards law enforcement contract. The money that wasn't spent for the years of 2022 and 2023 for the swimming pool would be going towards this. I think it's important that we know where that's coming from, because that money is stuff that those entities have saved. It's stuff we've rolled over for other projects to keep maintaining that stuff. I've got no problem paying it. We got to know where it's coming from. People need to see that. And it's, like I said, we just voted to go into raising water rates. It's really hard for me to look at people on fixed income and say we need to raise your taxes. So that's where I stand on it.
Let's do that.
Is there any more? Excuse me. Is there any more discussion?
So we did approve an offer at our May 20th meeting. And then there was a follow-up email after the proclamation that came out in the paper on June 6th. We still have not heard back from the sheriff or the commissioners. Is that correct, Tom?
I have not heard back.
Stuart, you haven't heard anything from the sheriff or the commissioners on your June 6th email?
I have not.
And they have a contract draft and they have an amount on the table that we're waiting for them to approve or disapprove before moving forward?
Correct. Is there any more discussion? Is there any public comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you can approach the podium, please.
Pardon me?
If you can approach the podium for your comments, please.
Mary Morsinski. I think it's unprecedented for anyone to provide a service without making a deal first. I mean, people come up to you at a stop sign and want to wash your window and then ask you for $5 or something, and you don't know that you can't do that. You have to. The services that have been provided by the sheriff have been unsolicited by the city. But still we get an invoice. And then there's not enough clarification about what the state requires the county to provide as far as protection and safety is concerned on a city level. So I would suggest not paying for services that were not solicited.
Well, Mary, I wouldn't necessarily say they're unsolicited because the sheriff's office is responding to calls. So people are making phone calls and the sheriff's office is responding to those calls, call for service. And that's where these hours come from, is the calls for service.
But for the city to pay for it rather than the county is the problem that I have processing that whole thing.
Well, and what I would say, Mary, is that, like you said, the law is not cut and dry about where responsibility lies. which is part of why I've gotten the local government center and the League of Cities and Towns back involved and said, hey, you know, I know you're waiting for the chips to fall, but we need some clarification and some help on this. So, but that being said, as of June 5th, the sheriff quit providing services in town. We quit paying them before that. I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but maybe if we pay them, the people will be safer.
So we're paying this invoice for April and May, and as of May 20th, we have an offer in front of the sheriff and the commissioner.
As of June 6th.
June,
June 6th, yeah.
okay.
Yep, because we approved the final draft of the contract on June 3rd. So, yep.
Have we given up on getting any clarification from the Attorney General?
No, we have not. I have actually talked to the Attorney General's office 3 times since June 5th. And I will talk to them again tomorrow because Wednesday is my weekly day to call them and find out about all of the questions I have into them, including that clarification on, yeah. So I'm getting well acquainted with the people at the Attorney General's office.
Cool. Please.
I would like to point out that by law, we are required to have the police force. And without having our own local police force, we should be contracting. So the sheriff is in fact covering us because we do not have our own police force in place.
I understand all of that relationship, yeah.
So-
And we're not alone.
Yeah.
Everybody's handling the problem in their own way. But a contract with the sheriff is not the only way. It's one of the methods.
I can't see. Did Mary go sit down or is she still
Yeah, she's sitting down.
Okay. Is there any other public comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Josh Van Setten, and I don't think that we should consider not paying the invoices. It seems pretty unreasonable that the county should pick up the slack for city law enforcement. Nobody expects Cascade County taxpayers, people that live in Cascade or Ulm, to pay for all of the services that the city of Great Falls needs. They choose to provide their own law enforcement and pay them. So we need to figure this out so that, which it seems like most people are in favor of contracting with the county. And it seems pretty ridiculous that it's taken this long to figure this out. So I would recommend paying the bills and negotiating a contract. And hopefully we get something similar to the original contract that the county offered back over a year ago or about a year ago. And
The county did not offer a contract. The county did not offer a contract.
They
Just
offered
let him speak.
it was like a $50,000 increase the first year and then a percentage increase after that year. $50,000 over 700 to 800 taxable properties is $6-7 a month. And if it means we have to create a special improvement district to fund this, just like we did with the water, it needs to be funded.
Again, I can't see if Josh is still standing there.
Yeah, he's sitting.
Thank you, Josh.
Hi,
Is there more public comment?
there
Yes.
is. So I'm
Okay.
Amber Van Setten. I have reached out to the council at least twice. One when Mayor Hindwing was in office, and once while Stuart was in office. I've had conversations with Stuart and Heather separately. I have never had a response from either email except for from Josh. And then when Stuart was on the council and Chris was there, he responded. I have not heard from any other council member. Not sure if the emails get to you or not. Two,
There was an offer by the sheriff, and if I remember correctly, Councilwoman McCarthy-Duty actually then wanted to pay less for the services. Wanted more, wanted to then pay less, such as our junk vehicles, the lawns, all of these extra things that we want. We want these city ordinances, but we don't want to pay for them. I'm not sure, like, if that's something that you're going to enforce. We want this. The city by law is required to have law enforcement, and we're not providing it. We're in violation right now, and we have been for over a year as an incorporated city. We don't have the infrastructure or the finances to hire our own police force. That's super expensive. I think if I receive a service, it's my responsibility to pay for a service. I'm getting the service. We're seeing colonists taking these calls. We're seeing what we're paying for. Pendray isn't, they don't have these calls. Bynum doesn't have these calls. I've talked to community members in Bynum, Dutton, Fairfield, Pendray. They're not interested, and this, we don't have the jurisdiction here in the city to ask for a county levy, and they are not interested. They are liking, they have seen patrol in Pendray, more patrol in Pendray since patrol here has been lessened. They like it. I've talked to Bynum residents, they're seeing more patrol. They're getting now what the county, as county taxpayers, they are seeing things that they weren't seeing before because the sheriff's office is devoting less time to our city because we're not paying for the services that they're rendering. So I would recommend, I know that it's taken a long time and there's a contract on the table, but I would recommend we pay these invoices. We've got a big holiday coming up. We just approved paying a separate entity for services. Like, where does that money come from, right? Like, we just approved paying for something that we could have locally. And I mean, we want to have these things. We want to have a street dance. We want to have a rodeo, and we want the wrestling club to be able to sell beer at the rodeo, but they can't do that. Potentially, that has to be signed off by the sheriff. And right now, we don't have that ability to say that.
Sheriff had said and signed that on the.
Perfect, beautiful. So it's just starting to trickle down and affect multiple organizations. And so I ask,
So I do want to say something though. Everybody keeps saying that they quote the law that we have to have law enforcement, and we technically, up until we didn't pay the full payment for May, do, because we're paying it month by month. There's nothing that says we have to have a yearly contract with law enforcement. So by them issuing us a bill and us paying that bill, we've had law enforcement all along. So technically, we're not in violation of that. Unless there's a law somewhere that I don't know of that says we have to be under contract with them for a long term.
Amber, did you have anything else?
I think there's been a lot of resistance to pay those. I think that's been a fight. Getting a contract drafted has taken a long time, guys. Like, we've been sitting on this a while. We have had an advisory board that has made recommendations that we don't follow. They haven't been followed. I think that's where the issue resides, is there's this hesitation and we gotta move forward.
Okay, she sat down, Stuart.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Okay. Those in favor of paying the sheriff's department's bills to the tune of $33,630, I lost it, 30 some dollars, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Pay the sheriff. The last item on our agenda tonight is paying the claims, the rest of the claims.
So just to point out, the sheriff invoice is not part of that claim total.
Right. And and honestly, that's why I did it separately, is because I have felt that we have held our other claims hostage by paying the sheriff, and I wanted transparency. So, if you guys want to pay the rest of the bills, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to pay the rest of the claims.
Second.
The motion by Councilperson Belanger and seconded by Councilperson Gacoli to pay the claims. Is there any discussion? Is there anything unusual in there, Tom?
Nothing unusual. One bill to pay the painting of the city shop, which is part of the House Bill 355.
Right.
monies. We're still finishing up those local projects from that House bill, which covers 75% of the cost for those projects. So the city shop looks real nice. And then there is, what was it? Just over $4,000 for police training. There's actually a separate pot of money that I applied for the fire department and the police department, that there's grant money from the state. And so we got that again, and I'm sending that off to the sheriff's department. The fire department stays in our budget.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Is there any public comment on the rest of the claims? Hearing none, and all those in favor of paying the claims say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. All right, we'll pay the claims. Law enforcement report, with the sheriff's department invoice, you got the call record. So that is our law enforcement. City judge. Gotta get to it here. Looks like bunch of zeros. So, and that probably has to do with the fact that everything is being written up as a county ticket. So until we get something worked out with the sheriff's department or whatever we end up doing for, excuse me, law enforcement, that's probably going to look that way. City attorney. I don't think did we have a report on that, Tom?
Not a specific report. His last invoice covered reviewing some water project documents, finalizing the floodplain permits for 2 properties.
That's right. And then yep. Okay. All right. Colin, you're there, right? Do you have a Public Works report for us?
I do. Back tees came in negative for call forms, so that's good. Chlorine report was submitted. So we're in compliance with DEQ. We pumped 8,401,840 gallons. We metered 5,583,893 gallons. 30% went to the fire department, 10,000 for flushing, and gives us a grand total of 33% loss for the month of May. City crew helped on 2 service line leaks in town and residents. Our effluent discharge is normal. Waste influent has gone down pretty good right now with the drought. 487,000 gallons, 654. BOD came in at 96.58. Removal rate in our wastewater TSSs came in at 98.6. So we're really good there. Garbage, that continues. One thing on garbage I'd like to mention to folks, was brought to my attention by the landfill, lithium-ion batteries. And this is on a small scale, anything toys, anything lithium-ion, please do not throw them in your garbage. They are starting the landfill on fire. When they crush them with their big compactors, it starts fires, and then they got to take them out, let them burn out, and then put the contaminated soil back in the landfill. There are bins, I guess, at the roll-off site. We do not have any in city limits, but if folks pay attention to their laptops, cordless drills, all those sorts of things, we need to make sure they are not going in the trash. And I will put out something in the Acantha to remind people that that is a big no-no. And the garbage guys will be on alert as well. Shop equipment, maintenance is on all our stuff continues. We've been grinding up a lot of streets around town, so if you see us working, just be mindful of the heavy equipment, and we do have signage up. So that's going on, doing lots of streets. Cardboard balers busy, and then the parks continue their services.
Cool.
That's all I got.
All right, just a comment. I was talked to before I left by one of our garbage men, and maybe Colin with that lithium ion notice. Also put in there not to throw your bear spray away in your garbage. I do believe that the Forest Service has a bin for those. The guys have gotten dusted with bear spray a couple of times because there's a can in there, and when the garbage truck crushes it, it disperses what's left in that bear spray can. So please don't put your bear spray cans in the garbage either. I will make sure I'll try and get a hold of the Forest Service tomorrow and find out if they do in fact have a bin down there for disposal. Other than that, Tom, anything?
So I already mentioned we'll have to pass salaries increase because they take effect in July, but the whole budget doesn't get passed until September, so we do that early. Working on the budget right now, just getting started working on the budget with the help of Jody Rogers. There's a lot of parts to it, so what else am I working on?
Do we need to do a budget amendment for the sheriff's department then?
Not yet.
Okay.
Only if the entire general fund goes over budget. So we'll know. I think we will have some budget amendments to pass. As a few things that weren't in the budget came up, like some grants and some payments that came up that just weren't originally in there. You know, nothing unusual, just they weren't in the budget, so we just have to do a budget amendment to make sure that they're noted in there, because we got a few different grants. We have wrapped up 3 of the House Bill 355 projects, so there's still 3 remaining projects. The city shop is, I think, like 75% complete now.
I'd say more like
90% complete.
They'll be done this week.
Perfect. So I have gotten some reimbursements back from the House Bill 355. We just have millings and road repair for one project, and then the mini park repairs for another project. So those will hopefully be done sometime this summer, and that will close out those. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Josh Belanger, anything else new in your neighborhood?
Not currently.
Okay. Heather?
As noted on Facebook, the little flags popping around the neighborhood, they're getting ready to lay the groundwork for the water improvements. So everyone who has little flags in their front yard, please leave them there. But yeah, excited to have that move forward.
Yep.
Polly? On that, they were supposed to start last Monday. Apparently they've been delayed. They will start mobilizing the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the clock's ticking. But that's on them. They're gonna have to make up ground somewhere, but they did miss a really beautiful month of work. But the engineer is aware, they are aware that its time is ticking, so just an update on that. 23rd, we should be breaking ground.
Okay. Polly?
The 4th of July is coming up, so when we talked about the fireworks hours, if I recall, we talked about putting a sign at the sales points of what the hours of explosions were. So people were aware of what the restrictions are, and it wasn't just in the Acantha, which not everybody.
Because it wasn't very big, I did give the one that is usually by Rex's, a printout with the code, the post with their permit.
Is
I
it,
can make a bigger one for them.
so we
Well,
will
we
get
should,
those distributed to the different sales shops? That'd be great.
At least the ones in city limits I can.
Well, I'd be glad to go hand them out, tape them up or something, but
We can spread them around town.
yeah, I think it'd be wise.
Okay.
And then Lisa Hudnett has created a sign for the bird park. It's called Songbird Park, and there's a sign to indicate why the grass is not mowed. So everybody will know that that's for the birds. And the birds seem happy.
you might want to rephrase that because it's for the birds.
These are ground nesters that are very susceptible to, damage during nesting season. It's down where the former garden tree farm.
Right by Lisa's house, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it was growing long, and now the
there's
city
birds
doesn't have to
under
mow
that
it.
grass.
It's native. But visit it if you like.
Is- All right. Anything else, Polly?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Sarah?
Gentle reminder that I am not running for reelection for city council. Filing is open it's the street in front of the post office, north, correct?
Yeah, the street going that way, but the filing is closed.
It closer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The Senate bill came
Oh, June
through
11th, yeah.
and
Oh.
shortened the time.
I thought filing was still open. Okay.
Yeah.
there is I think it's a 2-week write-in period,
Yes.
but if nobody writes in, then we will have to appoint, I think within 30 days after the election. So I'm working on getting clarification on that, if we have to appoint before the end of the year, or if we appoint, if we have 30 days starting January 1st. But I will have clarification on that, hopefully next week for our meeting. If not, I definitely will have it by July 1st. So since Sarah brought that, did you have anything else, Sarah?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, since Sarah brought that up, there are 3 people who have filed for the Ward 2 position. Josh Belanger, who is currently the appointed fill-in, Greg Maurer, who sits on our LEAB board, and then Chester Thomas Smith, who was one of the other possible appointees for the councilman Ward 2, Councilman 2 position. Looking at the state website, I am the only person who filed for mayor.
Are you sure? Chad Smith?
Yeah.
Yes, I looked at it today, Tom.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, about an hour and a half ago. I can go double check if you'd like. But yeah, it said.
Or 5 and the door was closed.
So anyway, so that once that's official and the write-in period is over, we should have it in the paper who has filed for what seats.
So
But
we still have time for a write-in candidate.
yep, we still have time for a write-in candidate as long as you're north of the post office. The other things I have I just lost my train of thought. Oh, the water project. Colin mentioned that I did get an email from Colette today. She and I have been bugging DNRC on getting in black and white that we are going to get that $493,000 grant. And the guy from the DNRC responded today and he said, I don't have anything in writing yet, but I will reach out to them again today. So Colette and I are staying on that, and the gentleman from DNRC is continuing to push to make sure we get that in black and white before Easton gets here and gets rolling. Other than that, I said my thing about bear spray. And we will have that special meeting on June 24th. I did submit a contract to the sheriff on June 6th. It was the sheriff and Joe Delwo, county commissioner, not MMIA, Dan Clark as the mediator from the local government center, Tom and myself were all included on that email. So, and as of today, I had heard nothing back. So,
Stuart, what was the lag time between us approving that and us presenting it to him?
excuse me, I didn't have the contract with the language complete until Josh, was that Wednesday night or Thursday morning?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was late. Early.
And so, you know, by the time I got it and looked it over, it was Friday before I was able to get it to them. So, but it was just making sure that the contract did say what we had approved it to say, and that the amount was, you know, it takes a minute to go through and make sure that we wanted to say what we wanted to say. I didn't want to send something to him, especially after the announcement on June 5th that we didn't want to stand behind as a city. So, building and zoning permits. There's a report in your packet. Looks like there's 4 of them. Yeah, other than that, I will open it up to public comment. Public comment will be accepted on any public matter that is not on the agenda of this meeting and that is within the jurisdiction of the city, Choteau City Council. City officials do not respond during these comments, but may respond in writing or at another time. Participants are requested to limit their comments to 5 minutes per person. Is there any public comment? Tom, would you be willing to turn the camera so I can? Thank you. If there's no public comment, then I will adjourn the meeting and we will have our special meeting next week on June 24th. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Stuart.